From Columbia, South Carolina, WIS News 10 starts with First Alert Weather.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Judy Gatson along with Greg Adeline and our First Alert Weather team continuing to track Tropical Storm Debbie as it moves across the Carolinas, kind of sits on the Carolinas. We will be updating you in just a moment on the First Alert forecast. In the Midlands, at least, it's been pretty calm today, but Debbie is not done with us just yet. We're glad to have you with us online. Please feel free to share where you're watching us on your social media platforms, also on the CW this afternoon.
Yes, we are anticipating perhaps a second landfall from this storm. Tropical Storm Debbie set to make another landfall a little bit later on this evening into tomorrow. Of course, our First Alert Weather team is on top of it, giving you complete and accurate information as the storm sets to make its return to the Midlands. So we're going to enjoy it for now in terms of some clear weather, but that will be changing before too long.
Absolutely. Let's jump right in. The message today from South Carolina leaders: remain vigilant, even as Debbie gave some people a brief reprieve earlier.
Yeah, new parts of the state are bracing for additional impacts as officials shift their focus and resources. Our Mary Green joins us now from South Carolina's Emergency Operations Center in Lexington County. So Mary, I imagine it's all hands on deck there.
Yes, Greg, Judy, it's still all hands on deck here, as it has been for more than 24 hours at this point. And during his press briefing earlier today, Governor Henry McMaster made the analogy that South Carolina is in the second act of a 3-act play as the state anticipates Debbie's second landfall. Now, more resources, including sheltering, roads crews, National Guard, and search and rescue teams, are shifting toward the PD. There, officials anticipate widespread power outages and increased rainfall, though not as catastrophic as they feared earlier this week. However, they made clear this rain is still a significant concern, as is potential flooding of rivers, which may not crest until the middle of next week. The Department of Environmental Services says it's received just one report of a dam breach of a small unregulated dam in Colleton County yesterday, but no additional reports in the last 24 hours.
We're not done with the storm. We're not out of harm's way yet. So it's so important for our dam owners to continue to stay vigilant and observe current conditions at their dam.
As of earlier this afternoon, more than 80 state roads were closed across South Carolina, but the good news is that all interstate travel does remain open. Reporting live in Lexington County, Mary Green, WIS News 10.
All right, thanks to our Mary Green, who's reporting at the Emergency Operations Center. And of course, a shout out to all of the first responders and those folks who are manning that center 24 hours a day. Yeah,
no doubt. And as the storm continues to progress and as that second landfall makes its way toward the coast of South Carolina, we will be on top of it. In fact, we have crews throughout the area giving you the very latest updates on this storm. But for now, we need to get a check of that forecast from our meteorologist, Vaughn Gaskin. Vaughn, give us an idea in terms of some of the timing of this. When will we see perhaps the worst impacts right here in the Midlands?
Greg, that's a great question, because as we start to break this down, we've seen a lot of folks being out and about on the roads, and we don't want you to get too comfortable with the way things are out there now, because we actually have had a good amount of sunshine in some areas, and it's actually shaping up to be a decent day. The problem is we're going to start to see these stronger bands, these higher wind gusts start to work their ways back in, and a lot of this is going to happen when it gets dark. And so that's a time frame that you need to really be watching your surroundings and just kind of have your neighborhoods and your homes and your property prepared for that kind of stuff. So with Tropical Storm Debbie, we just got an update at the top of the hour, and the latest numbers show us that the winds are at about 60 miles per hour, which is where it's been, and the movement is still at about 3 miles per hour to the north-northeast. So not a lot has changed. It is starting to make a little bit of progress closer to land. For now, though, we're still watching for that second landfall somewhere near the Charleston-Georgetown County borders. That area expected to take shape probably around 2 a.m. or so, late tonight into first thing tomorrow morning for that center of circulation. But here's what's so important. It's not about that center. We're going to see the impacts stretching far beyond that center, far beyond this little cone I have here. So we're already starting to see things go downhill in some of our coastal communities again, because it is getting closer. So with that being said, once it does spend a little bit of time over land, we're expecting it to weaken down to winds of about 45 miles per hour as it trucks through parts of the PD and then into North Carolina, and then beyond it just becoming a remnant area of low pressure, which is going to be a beneficial rainmaker for some areas. And it finally starts to speed up once we get into the day Friday. So where are we now? Number one, we know that one of the main events with Debbie has been the slow movement causing major catastrophic flooding. That has already been set, and because of that, we're seeing a lot of issues with the river flooding. So as we look up towards the Waccamaw River in Kershaw County, that is an area that has been taking on water. They're starting to see it get high. They have a flood warning in place. A flood warning also in place for parts of the Congaree River and then parts of the Edisto River down in Orangeburg County. So don't get confused. There are river flood warnings, and then of course there are flash flood warnings for rain that's actually coming down and then running off into communities, causing that water to pile up and for it to be unsafe on the roads. So that's why we have the flash flood warning still in place for parts of Clarendon and Orangeburg counties, staying in place until 5:45. So we have a few more minutes on that, and more than likely they'll do a reissuance of that where they just kind of redraw the lines because it's not moving very much. So those are areas still taking on rain, and so with that rain still coming down in those communities, they'll issue that flash flood warning yet again. And so the watch is in place for all the counties in the green here, and that's basically all of our viewing area with the exception of Newberry and Saluda counties. That stays with us until 8 o'clock on Friday morning. So here's where the rain is falling right now at this very minute. We're seeing that rain pretty heavy for us now in Sumter County and in Manning, and now starting to move into Orangeburg counties. If you were watching us over the previous updates, this line was actually closer to, let's say, Moncks Corner and closer to the Low Country. Every couple of hours, it's inching closer and closer to the Midlands. That's the way that counterclockwise flow is going to work its way in, just kind of inching in closer and closer because it's moving ever so slowly. So that means it gives it a lot of time to produce a lot of rain in those same areas. So Sumter, you're getting hammered now. Manning, let's watch out in your communities that you know take on a lot of that rain. Ellery, heavy rain falling for you, even some lightning in some of that. We're seeing that down towards Vance, Holly Hill. It's actually starting to move closer to Bowman now. Outside of Holly Hill, that's because it's inching in closer to the Midlands. That particular line, this line has been very aggressive as it has a direct fetch from the ocean. So it's coming right in directly from around the center of circulation. Heavy rain for us in Dalzell, right over Shaw Air Force Base with some strong storms, heavy rain, gusty winds falling there. That's into the city of Sumter, Broad Street, Pinewood, and into Maysville. We're watching you very closely. Tuberville, moderate to light rain for you. It's still coming down pretty heavy though. Clearly, we're dealing with a wide swath of energy. So mentioning that center of circulation really doesn't matter a whole lot when you're dealing with such a widespread system like this. So Debbie's still moving very, very slowly and producing large amounts of rain. So I wanted to put on the 48-hour rain totals just for a few spots so that you can start to see what some of these numbers are looking like. And yes, in areas in southern Richland and Lexington counties, you're at about 6 inches. We have some areas here in that deep red that's coming in at about 6 inches for you. As you head over into areas in Orangeburg County, you're at that 7-inch mark in some of those spots. I've been looking at some of those numbers. And again, these are 2-day totals. The National Weather Service is keeping account of this, and when it's all over, we'll be able to give you some official numbers. But for now, we're certainly starting to stack those numbers up. So you think about all these numbers that I'm giving you: 4, 5, 6, and 7 inches of rain already in our area, and there is a chance of more. So all it takes is one big storm, and it could cause another round of flooding. That's the reason we're watching the excessive rainfall risk very closely. There is still a high risk that you'll see some flash flooding in parts of the PD. That's the area where the center of circulation will go right through. And now for us, we're actually not going to be on that forward right quadrant. We're actually going to be on that left quadrant, but nonetheless, it still gives you that spin, that counterclockwise spin that's coming in. So you think about it with a tropical system, it's landfalling, it's moving one way, the winds within the system moving at a different angle, and that's how you get a tornado threat in that front side of a tropical system. So all of these are a factor, and if we get another big downpour in some of those areas that are already saturated, you're going to have more flash flooding. The area in the deep red, you're under a pretty good opportunity to get a couple more flash flooding alerts throughout the course of the night and into tomorrow morning. So the numbers I've shown you earlier, plus these numbers, could add up to the numbers we were showing you last week, right? When we were saying there could be 10 to 12 inches of rain. So there are spots that have already had 7 inches in Orangeburg County. I wouldn't be surprised if we got close to another 4 to 5 before it's all said and done, especially over near Bowman, Holly Hill, Santee communities. So let's watch out for those areas. And for the city of Columbia and right in the heart of the Midlands, I'm keeping you guys at about 2 to 5 more inches. That's more. So what's coming in now, it'll be with us overnight, and it'll be with us for a good chunk of the day tomorrow. So add all these numbers up, and we've got ourselves another issue with flooding. As we well know, there are several hazards that come with this, not just the heavy rain, but also the strong winds. And so that's where we're going to kind of start to break down a few more of these hazards and risks. Here we turn it over to Chief Meteorologist Adam Clark so that we can talk about a few more of those.
Yes, so we're going to just kind of break it down for you what we're expecting tonight. Heavy rain and wind moves in from the east late tonight. And then the heaviest rain for Columbia is right around 1 in the morning to about 10 in the morning for your Thursday. So the winds are going to gust up to about 45 miles per hour, and it's possible basically in the eastern Midlands tonight around Lee County, Clarendon County, Sumter County, and also eastern sections of Orangeburg County could see those gusts up there to around 45 miles per hour. So it's a first alert weather day for tonight, flooding potential, and then Thursday, rain and flooding, 45 mile per hour gusts. That's the possibility as this thing makes its way through our region. So here's Edisto Beach right now. You can see there's a little bit of wind out there. We don't have a flag up there, and I think it's right now kind of frozen, but still cloudy conditions there, and the sensor's not actually working. Currently, the system is just down to our south of Charleston, and it's starting to bring in this moisture back into our region. Last night, we had it entrain some drier air, and that has been quelled. It's like, okay, I've sat over the ocean long enough. I'm able to strengthen back up. We're thinking it'll get up to about 65 miles per hour, as Vaughn was just mentioning. That's the possibility as it makes its way back inland. So here's that track once again, moving north-northeast at 3 miles per hour and around 995 for the pressure, and we put the clouds on here because this is the impact. It goes all the way into North Carolina. So even though the track is on here, know that this thing is much larger. This is just where the center will kind of cross over from Charleston all the way up towards the southern reaches of Myrtle Beach around Surfside and Myrtle's Inlet at 65 miles per hour. That happens right around 2 in the morning, and by 2 in the afternoon, it's still right around 45. So that is an improvement than what we saw earlier, but it was right around 50 miles per hour, so it's just 5 mile per hour difference from the last update at 2 o'clock. And by 2 in the morning, 35 miles per hour, and then it weakens and pushes to the north into your Friday. So I was showing you this earlier. The ocean is still very warm right here. Sometimes when we have a system that's over the ocean for long enough, the rain and the wind kind of help cool off the ocean, which helps quell the storm altogether, but it's not the case here. We still have very warm waters that's going to allow this storm to strengthen as it makes its way inland. So that brings in tropical storm winds later tonight. So here it is around 11 o'clock around Horry County, also Georgetown and Charleston. Mainly areas around Myrtle Beach. You can see the onshore wind. So if there's going to be any storm surge, and we're thinking around 2 to 4 feet, with this, it'll be in those counties there because that's where the wind is kind of bringing it all in. So as we head towards around 11 in the morning, that's when we're starting to see around areas of of Clarendon County, eastern Sumter County, and also Lee County with the best chance of getting those tropical storm force winds. Even here in Columbia, it's a low risk, about 5% chance of getting 39-mile-per-hour winds or higher, and 10% chance just to the east and south of town, including Orangeburg and also just south of Camden, Sumter, and also St. Matthews in on that too. Now, as we head towards Thursday evening, a system moves up to the north. So our chances of rain will be going up late tonight. Around 11 o'clock, 70% chance. At 1 in the morning, 90%. And we're staying at 90% at 3 in the morning. So our future cast, you can see that heavy rain around 7 tonight, continuing to the west at 10. Heavy downpours, gusts up to 47 miles per hour, 32 in Bishopville. So this is 10. We're still dry here in Columbia, but it's just to our west. Now it starts to make its way to the east a little bit, but it's going to take its sweet time. This line is just going to likely sit. That's what it did when it first got here, right? It just sat to our south forever, then finally overtook Columbia, and that's what's going to happen again, because these things it's moving very slowly, and that's why we're so nervous for flooding, because it is moving very slowly. 33-mile-per-hour gusts in Manning, 33 around Bishopville. You can see it's really starting to fill in, starting to reach Columbia at 3 in the morning. And at 6 in the morning, some of these heavy downpours around Bishopville, Sumter, and also Orangeburg. And you can kind of see that counterclockwise spin right over our region. So the center of it starting to move into around Bishopville and up over towards Chesterfield. Here it is at 1 in the afternoon. Things are getting a little more quiet, but still breezy, gusts up to 25. And then by 5 o'clock, we're looking pretty good. And as we head towards 10, we've got spotty showers in the region there. So Futurecast is also showing clearer skies by Friday morning into Friday afternoon. So Friday's actually looking good. I wanted to give you some good news at least. For tornadoes, it's a low risk. Strong winds elevated, as you just saw. River flooding, Vaughn was covering that with all of our advisories and warnings for around our rivers and streams, and then just flash flooding in general. That's our biggest threat with this system. And this is what our in-house model is bringing, so additional rain to what we've already seen, about 1 inch here in Columbia. It could be around 5 over to the east in Manning and Sumter, in an area that's already seen about 5 to 6 inches of rain. Some locations have reported around 7 inches already. So flood safety, know it. 6 inches can knock you off your feet, so don't walk through it. 12 inches can float a car. 18 to 24 can float a truck or SUV. Turn around, don't drown. Now your long-range Futurecast has this low making its way to the north. Heavier rain up to the north by 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and wind, and then it's gone by 3 o'clock in the afternoon there, so good news. Now currently Sumter, you've got some very heavy downpours currently down towards Vance, some lighter showers, but lightning strikes have shown up here. Here in Columbia, things are dry. We also have a little cell in Saluda County, and this stretches all the way over towards Florence and over to the east there. Kingstree getting a little bit of a break, but we still have this warning right here. We'll put something on here to make sure we got to have the time correct for this flash flood warning. That's lasting until 5:45. And then the flood watch, of course, that's the area shaded in green. That lasts until 8 o'clock in the morning for your Friday. Now, a wider shot of everything once again, so you can see the center of the Tropical Storm Debbie. The heavier band just down to our south. We've got that lightning just showing up in eastern sections of Orangeburg County. So another little feeder band also up around Saluda. So that little storm that you've got in Saluda, that's a feeder band. Even one that's all the way into the North Carolina. We have some showers around Asheville from this system. So it's a wide system. It's all the way up into North Carolina and even portions of Hilton Head. This area here is getting some heavy rain, and they've already seen soaking rains there in upwards of 10 to 15 inches there. And that's why we were so concerned with this, because it's just sitting in this region. They got a little bit of a break, so that's good. As did we. We got our break as well. And we're going to continue with that break likely here in Columbia until late tonight, and we'll have a team of meteorologists right here tracking this storm throughout the night and into tomorrow morning. So stay tuned to WIS and the First Alert Weather Team. We've got you covered. All right, Judy and Greg, back to you.
Adam, thank you so much. Also want to welcome in all of our viewers who are watching us on Facebook Live right now. So feel free to join the live stream. We'll be answering as many of your questions as we can while the meteorologists are tracking Debbie, and we're getting updates from our reporters in the field. So glad to have you guys on board. We also want to update you on the school closures. We know that people have had so much commotion. This is the week that so many people were planning to go back to school, and Debbie has certainly complicated things. Obviously, when schools make these decisions about closings, cancellation, and delays, they have to think about road conditions. They have to make sure the schools can accommodate the logistics in terms of water, power, all of those different things. So in an abundance of caution, in terms of what we're expecting from Debbie overnight, a number of districts have decided to close for tomorrow. They include Richland District 1 and Richland District 2. They will both be closed Thursday, as well as Lexington District 1 and Lexington District 2.
Yeah, the others on there, Lexington 3 is e-learning for tomorrow. Lexington 4 is closed. LR 5 is closed on Thursday as well. Orangeburg e-learning is closed for Thursday, and Sumter e-learning closed as well. A lot of these districts making that decision today, of course, out of an abundance of caution and watching the forecast very closely to make sure that not only the start of school starts out on a good note, but also just out of a sheer logistical standpoint, as you mentioned, because in a situation like this, when it seems as though the worst of the weather will be throughout the day, obviously making that decision ahead of time, giving as much people notice as possible is always a good thing.
Yeah, and Tyler on our Facebook Live is asking, do y'all think they'll close school on Friday too? Tyler, we're not going to get ahead of the storm or the process, but I would imagine road conditions will be a big factor in that. Again, making sure the schools have power, making sure the bus routes are clear. And you know, you have to keep in mind the teachers for a particular school don't necessarily live right in that neighborhood. Right. Teachers and staff have to travel as well. So they'll take all of that into consideration as they make those decisions.
Well, it goes to show that there are questions that people have.
Yeah, absolutely.
And luckily, there is a hotline that you can call for Tropical Storm Debbie. You can call the state's toll-free hotline that is set up at 1-866-246-0133. Operators with the state's public information phone system are available 24 hours a day as long as needed. We've had reports from Mary Green throughout the day as well at the state's emergency management district center, where they're making all of these decisions and handling all of the logistics throughout the state agencies on hand, making sure that everything is covered as we await this second landfall from Tropical Storm Debbie. So it is all hands on deck there. But if you have any additional questions that you might hear even after a press briefing with the governor or whatnot, you can call that hotline.
Absolutely, and that's how they coordinate the county-wide response from all over South Carolina, communicating constantly with those county officials to see if there are any unmet needs, if they need to divert resources from one area to another in terms of responding to Debbie. Our Nick Neville has traveled to Jasper County, and Greg, the pictures that he sent back to us, and he'll have some video to show us, but it just shows why we keep hearing our meteorologists and state officials say, turn around, don't drown, because in this flood water on these roadways, you have no idea whether the ground, the roadways, that structure is sound underneath.
Yes, absolutely. We're going to get a live report from Nick right now. So Nick, certainly a situation there where that road is out.
That's right, Greg and Judy. So we're here on Langfordville Road, which is in the Pineland area of Jasper County. Now, as you can see, a portion of this road has just completely fallen. There was actually a water rescue here on Tuesday morning. That, according to fire officials, those individuals had to go to the hospital. They are going to be okay. Now, they say this is partially due to some of the water continuing to pool from this left side of the roadway and also due to the right side of the roadway as well. There's, of course, this layer of sand, but it can only hold so much water. Now, we did have an opportunity to speak to several people who live nearby, have concerns about other possible roads that may be in similar conditions, of course, with the rain and wind caused by Debbie creating potentially hazardous conditions on several other roadways. Many of these individuals have had to find alternate routes home. SCDOT was out here a few moments ago, just in the last hour. No word on when reconstruction may begin. That is, of course, all we have right now. We'll be sure to update you as soon as we learn more. Reporting in Jasper County, Nick Neville, WIS News 10.
New flash flood warning into the WIS First Alert Weather Center, so we'll be checking in with our meteorologist in just a moment. Vaughn, you said Calhoun County, right?
Yes, Clarence
Clarendon, Calhoun, Lee, and Sumter County. So the First Alert Weather Team updating that forecast right now. We'll have those details for you momentarily.
Yeah, one thing to keep in mind as well, and what we're hearing is certainly in a situation like this, and you may remember Florence several years ago where so much of the river flooding was a problem because flooding in many ways is a little bit of a lagging indicator. Even though the weather has cleared up, these rivers oftentimes are swollen. They can overspill their banks and cause all sorts of problems, even hours, days after the storm passes. And so flooding in a situation like this is definitely a concern. We want to get over to our chief meteorologist, Adam Clark, to talk a little bit about the potential rainfall here. Adam, we just saw moments ago from our Nick Neville there in Jasper County, that water certainly can take a toll on area roadways. It's just staggering to see in many ways.
Yes, it really is, and that's what's happening underneath the waters. So that's what we're talking about whenever there's water over a roadway and you have no idea what's underneath. It could be just totally washed out, just like what Nick was showing you. So that's why we don't want you to drive into anything. I know everybody thinks their truck is lifted and they can get through it. Trust me, no lifted truck, no giant truck is going to get through that with all of that road gone and all of that water going over it. Now, we do have a new warning that just came up. You heard the alarm. It's in and around Calhoun and also Orangeburg and Clarendon County. This one's lasting until it looks like around 6:45. Excuse me, let me make sure I'm getting this right. Until 7:30 tonight. Until 7:30 tonight. So we've got it until 7:30 tonight in our area. So a really heavy band of rain has set up in this location. We'll put up the sweeping radar so you can kind of see what we're looking at. Very heavy downpours currently around Sumter, moving into Calhoun County, Florence, and that whole region there. So just please, if you see a flooded roadway in this region, turn around, don't drown. But right now, it's just been raining like this in Sumter for quite some time. What we'll do now is put a loop on this, a 3-hour loop. And so over Sumter, in the last hour or so, we've had very heavy rain in a short amount of time. And in fact, we can actually put on here an estimate of how much rain we've seen in the last couple of hours here, at least. We're going to put 4.2 inches. This is in the last 12 hours or so, 5.2 and 5.3 just south of Columbia. In Clarendon County, we've got 4.2, and portions of Lee County, right around 1.4 inches of rain. So that's why we've got the warnings popping up. We're going to have several flash flood warnings. So flash flood warning just means that the water is going to rise rapidly and start to cover roadways. Streams will overtake their banks very quickly. Flash, that's what flash means. It's quick, right? Whereas we have flood warnings around rivers, slowly rise and take their time rising as well. We're actually going to see our rivers rise throughout most likely this weekend as all this rain trickles down through the state down to the Atlantic Ocean. We're going to keep our eyes out on more warnings and what's to come as Debbie makes its way through, but for now I'm going to toss it right back to Judy and Greg.
All right, Adam, thanks so much. Big shout out to Adam and Vaughn, the whole First Alert Weather Team, because as we're moving along, they're explaining to us so well what the difference is between these watches and warnings and river warnings, flood warnings, the flash flood warnings, because it makes a huge difference in making sure you know how to respond and how to prepare for the storm.
Yeah, all important information, and of course, yeah, just a lot of long hours, but certainly doing such a fantastic job for us to keep everyone up to date.
Keep everybody safe.
Yeah, well, new at 5, WIS exclusively joined the city of Casey to survey storm damage on the Riverwalk.
Now, the city's 12-mile trail saw extensive flooding and damage back in 2015. Those of you who were here at the time certainly remember those incredible images. Now the Riverwalk and park officials are spending hours ensuring every precaution is taken before, during, and after a storm.
WIS reporter Naomi Popa joining us live in Casey to break down that damage and what she saw today on the Riverwalk with that crew. Naomi.
Judy, Greg, here's what's going on over in Casey. City officials closed the Riverwalk early Tuesday morning because of Storm Debbie. It'll remain closed for several days because of some of the damages that it'll show you. They're saying that it could be one of the most dangerous places to be, and that's because of its proximity to rising water and fallen debris, largely caused by these large gusts of wind. Now, I spoke to Tim Bosman. He's the supervisor over the Riverwalk. He tells me preparations began days ago. The crew cut down dead branches, cleaned off trails, and monitored water levels. A big factor in determining the safety of the trails is the wind. Bozeman says wind speeds hit over 20 to 25 miles an hour. It then becomes a large concern.
Anything that's going to become a hazard later on down the road when this wind starts getting up, it's going to be dangerous for anybody. Even when the storm's over with, we want to make sure it's safe. You know, because sometimes it takes 3 or 4 days before we can even get in there and get started, because the water level's got to get down to a safe level for us to be able to get in there.
But Bozeman says sometimes they don't get to prepare days in advance. Just this morning, a perfectly live tree several feet in width fell, causing a serious safety hazard. Now, city officials tell me they'll continue to monitor these damages over the next few days. I'll have more on those damages ahead on your WIS News at 6. But for now, reporting in KC, I'm Naomi Popa, WIS News 10.
All right, Naomi, thank you so much. Again, that exclusive look to give you an idea of the impact here in the Midlands, because, Greg, when the sun comes through, as it did beautifully this afternoon, that little peak of sunshine, it lifted my spirit. I hope it did for yours as well. But it can lull you into a false sense of security. Debbie Doe is not done with South Carolina yet.
That's right. And certainly one area of concern is the Low Country. Once again, where already they have seen just a ton of rainfall from Debbie. Some areas seeing over a foot of rain so far, and it looks like more is on the way. Fox Carolina's Anna Ariander in downtown Charleston with a look at some of the flooding so far there.
A vast difference here in Charleston. You can see that the rain is starting to come down and the clouds are setting in. It's pretty foggy here on the Ashley River. We've just been seeing a lot of changes going on this morning, even as of yesterday. Take a look at this video. This is the flooded roads in downtown Charleston. This is a very popular area on a normal day, a very touristy area. Vendors come out here to sell their goods. They do have a lot of folks who are going to the bars and restaurants along these streets, but we were able to really get a sense of what might be coming as we get ready for Debbie as she inches closer here to the coast of South Carolina. Take a listen to some of these folks who have been experiencing a lot here so far.
We are from St. Louis. I'm a little nervous. We moved our car to a garage downtown, so hopefully that's safe.
I've been here going on 6 years. The last storm that was here, and I was right here. I live in Canterbury, and it was right there, and we prepared for that. And plus, you know, I was at Hurricane Sandy in New York, so I know the deal.
People preparing as best they can here in Charleston. Those sandbags and boards really being put up against their homes in hopes of preventing a lot of this flooding potential that we could see here on the coast. I'm Anna Ariander in Charleston.
Hey, Anna, thank you so much. We're expanding our statewide coverage because we know so many of you have family and friends along the coast, in the Low Country, in those areas. And obviously, when it impacts the state, people take refuge and safe shelter from the storm. Some of them tend to move inland, so we want to make you aware of what the road conditions are, what those conditions are in areas all around the state.
Yeah, and you saw her near the water there.
Yes,
it's an area of concern, especially for property that is located near there. And of course, people who have boats, they're watching that closely as well. WNBF's Matt Bullock on Murrells Inlet, where a boat there is loose.
I'm here at the Marsh Walk in Murrells Inlet as the winds are starting to whip out 30, 40 miles per hour. And we're seeing the high tide starting to come in here along the marshes. And we had a boat break loose earlier this morning. Right here is a 29-foot hunter boat. It broke loose, but the police have actually anchored this boat right to the pier. So it is fine. It's not going anywhere. It's here at the pier. The police are still looking to see who the owner is. But just looking at this boat, it may be an abandoned boat because you can see just broken glass on the starboard side of this sailboat. As I mentioned, that sailboat is anchored to the pier, so it's not going anywhere. The rain continues to come down a pretty decent amount, but the winds as I mentioned, continue to just pick up 30, 40 miles per hour. Right now, early this morning, we are seeing that high tide, but we're expecting even more storm surge as we head into tonight as Debbie gets closer. So we're expecting some minor coastal flooding, especially here down the South Strand. And I'll let you guys know what it looks like here later this evening. But here in Murrells Inlet, Matt Bullock, Gray Media.
All right, Matt, thank you for that update as well. Of course, throughout the evening, we're going to keep you up to date on the very latest on the forecast and what we're expecting into these evening hours and overnight.
Yeah, things are definitely going to pick up before too long. Our chief meteorologist, Adam Clark, standing by to time out the worst of this. And Adam, it seems like overnight, especially into tomorrow morning, is when the Midlands will see the biggest impacts, and that's why we've seen so many school closures.
That's right. It's going to be moving in late tonight. Heavy rain returns with gusty winds from right around 1 in the morning until, well, 10 in the evening for areas to our east, right? They're already seeing some effects from Debbie right now, but that's going to march its way to the west throughout the overnight period. Flash flooding is a possibility, gusts up to 45 miles per hour, especially in those eastern communities. We've got first alert weather day for tonight and for your Thursday, rain and flooding with 45 mile per hour gusts. Now, as far as the water vapor goes, we have some dry air down to the south here, but it did make an impact yesterday, but no impact at all. We have plenty of moisture and warm sea surface temperatures that's going to allow this storm to strengthen in the next couple of hours here as we head into the around midnight time frame, where we're expecting landfall in and around the areas of Georgetown, Charleston, and Murrells Inlet. So even around Murrells Inlet and Surfside is within this path. But it's a wide system. Even though that little path will be right around this region here, notice, I mean, we've got rain well north of Wilmington, all the way down towards Hilton Head and Savannah, and reaching all the way into Sumter County. So currently our winds are at 60 miles per hour. It's moving north-northeast at 3 miles per hour, and the pressure's at 995. And at around 2 in the morning, we're around 65 mile per hour winds. So from midnight to 2, we're expecting the center of the storm, just the middle part, to make landfall. And that center could be anywhere within this cone for Thursday around 2 o'clock, 45 mile per hour winds. So it's going to be around 45 in portions of the Midlands, especially eastern Midlands at some point. And then right around Friday at 2 in the morning, 35 mile per hour winds, and then it's gone by the afternoon. The jet stream finally picks it up. So that wind starts to arrive. Here it is around 11 o'clock tonight. Here's Clarendon County as we head into around 11 in the morning from that's when that wind is in. So that wind for the overnight period. So anytime during the overnight period, and that reaches here around Columbia with a 5% chance for your Thursday morning, and then it pushes up to the north and away from our region. So our chances of rain pretty low for 5, 7, and 9 o'clock, and then we start to see the 80% chance around 1 to 3 in the morning. That's when it gets really rough for us here in Columbia, and then it kind of pushes over to the west as well. We'll show you that right here. I just want to show you this one more time. This is at 7 o'clock, Bishopville, Sumter, Manning. It pushes to the west here, a little farther towards Camden and St. Matthews at 10 tonight. Gusts up to 47, 32 in Bishopville, and then almost to Columbia at 1 in the morning, but still very heavy rain and some gusty winds up to 36 to 41 at 3 in the morning. And then by 6 in the morning, we've got on and off showers, heavy rain, gusts up to 35 to 34. By 10, we've got that heavy rain around 10, and then it pushes up to the north. And by Thursday afternoon, things get a little more quiet. So the afternoon's looking much better than the morning. So tonight, tomorrow morning, that's our timing for this system, and we'll have more on this all coming up at 6 o'clock on the news at 6 o'clock. So Judy and Greg, back to you.
All right. Thanks to our chief meteorologist, Adam Clark, and First Alert meteorologist, Vaughn Gaskin, as well, for keeping us up to date on the very latest on the storm. Thanks to you all for joining us. Remember, check your settings on the WIS app to make sure that you get those notifications anytime we go on with our live streams to keep you up to date with the very latest, especially as we move into these overnight hours. Using a weather radio this evening would also be a good idea, just to make sure you have all the information you need to keep your family safe.
Yeah, all very good information. And of course, on all of our platforms, you can find the very latest information as Tropical Storm Debbie continues to have impacts not only here in South Carolina, but right here in the Midlands throughout the evening. And of course, we appreciate you joining us here, and we'll have live coverage on WISTV.com and all of our digital platforms as we continue to track Debbie.
And we'll see you on WIS News at 6. A live shot there for you of Myrtle Beach.